Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with New Mutants number 6. And this was a fun read. This has drama, stakes, action, heartfelt moments, everything that you want from a good story laid on top of some really good artwork. Now, a lot of people be like, it's okay. But compared to a lot of modern books, this was some good stuff. Like especially since this was back in the day before 3D models and digital coloring. So this was all hand penciled and hand colored and painted and whatnot. So to me, this holds more value in my heart. Plus, it has that lovely nostalgia feeling, especially considering the fact that you get a great comic book for 60 cents. As where nowadays, a book like this would be like $5, $6, $7, and it's just like, oh. But inflation. Anyway, with that said, as you can see, you get a beautiful cover here with Cannonball, the Silver Samurai, Danny, and Wolfsbane. So let's jump into it and find out why this was such a good read. The print date on this was August 1983. And I like how it's called Road Warriors. And you open up and you just see the New Mutants going to town on this mob boss, who you come to find out is Shan's uncle, who betrayed her family when they came to America, corrupted her brother. So Shan really has a vendetta here. And so this is just kind of the start of it. So before we go any further into this lovely action, let's talk about who made this book. This is Chris Claremont writing, Sal Buscema penciling, A. Gill, J. Taras finishers, Janice Chiang letterer, George Russos colorist, Louise Jones, who is Louise Simonson editor, Jim Shooter editor-in-chief, created by Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod. So with that said, I like how immediately we see the team's powers in action. So on the first page, we saw Sunspot and Cannonball. I had to think about it for a minute. And you see how Karma here uses her powers to possess the women that are there so they can't get the drop on them. And I always loved how they draw her power, how it always looks like little cogs and whatnot. I always thought that was really fancy. And then we go into how it says, at the same time, Wolfsbane sifts from human to lupine form. And I just love these panels where it shows how she changes automatically and just the anatomy. And that's what I mean by just penciling. Instead of really having any type of 3D models to sketch over, this had to be done from mind to hand with maybe a couple of photo references. So beautiful, beautiful artwork. And you see that Karma really does have a dark side to her, because sadly, if you read New Mutants number 1, you see that she, when she came to America, it was really tragic what happened to her, and the way that it was explained, how it was brought about accidentally by Danny. It's very heartbreaking. So you can see that she does have a little bit of bitterness in her heart, and that a lot of her family members, you just kind of like, wow. And this guy, ugh. So there's one spoiler I do want to mention here, just because it sort of helps. One of their team members is obviously missing, and it is Danny. She's been captured by Viper, and so they're trying to find her, and they're going through the underworld. And so here, Shane says, "Look down, Uncle. It is 250-meter sheer drop to the California street. They cannot save you, but I can destroy you. A thought, a single step, is all is required to rid the world of a piece of human vermin like you." So even though Shen does have some bitterness about her, she does have a heart, because her uncle's like, do it. Kind of like that be like me type situation. And she goes, I can't. So what happens is, in order to find out the location of Danny, an essential deal with the devil's made. You want to know what I'm talking about? Get the book. But I love the way she's drawn here, how you just see the hurt in her face, that she can't hurt someone, even though they are filth. It's still a family member. And everything that she's been through, she can't bring herself to kill her uncle, especially the pledge she made when she became a new mutant. Now, after that, we cut into another team, because this plan is twofold. So the New Mutants are going after Danny, and in this team, which I've never seen before, like I said, the New Mutant books are seeming like the early ones are really hard to find. But there's this team called Team America. And that always makes me think of America. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, they're mutants, but they're motorcyclists. And I've never, other than this issue, I've never heard of them. And I think after this arc, and they're never seen from again, at least from what I know. If you guys know of any other issues, let me know down in the comments. But these two guys, Wolf and what's the other dude's name? I can't remember. But anyway, this guy, they're in Mexico going after their prerogative. But this guy, Wolf, he prides himself on being a motorcyclist, as does he. But this guy, he's more of like a street racer motorcyclist, as where he's more of an off-road one. So he wants to give him a taste of humble pie. So you start to see that there's a unrest amongst this team. And I like that Xavier is just like, I've had enough. Your only hope for survival is cooperation. You must trust each other as a team, not play tricks like overaged schoolboys. And so I like that kind of starts to resound in them, and we'll get into that in a moment. But you can see that Xavier is with Team America, but he's starting to feel this strain because he's trying to stay in touch with this team and the New Mutants back in America, and he's just feeling the stress of being a leader. And I love how Lilandra's there, and she's trying to console him. And he even says, he goes, so far, neither group has accomplished its goal. It's early, we must wait. It's so hard, Lil. It's the price one pays for being a leader. And I miss back when Lilandra was with Xavier. It always made for some really good storytelling because she did complete him more so than Moira did, because at that point they were just friends and she's with Banshee, as where this is his love. And I always loved anytime I see Lilandra in a comic. And so here, again, this is only issue 6 of the New Mutants, so they're all still not well versed in their powers. So Danny's talking about how she wishes how she could expand on her powers to get her out of this cell. So we get some really interesting inner monologue here with her. Same thing with Lady Viper and Harada Yoshida. And what I like, again, this is sort of, in a sense, an interlude. It still ties in because they're the ones that are imprisoning Danny. But Harada's talking about how his father's dead. And she's like, well, why don't we go to Tokyo and get your inheritance? And he's like, I have no inheritance. Shingen pledged that upon his death, I would become a lord of Clan Yoshida. But my place has been usurped by his daughter, Meriko. And she has announced her betrothal to a Gaijin, a foreigner, the X-Man Wolverine. So I like how this kind of ties into the Claremont Frank Miller miniseries and a lot of the Uncanny X-Men stuff that was happening around this time where Logan was getting ready to marry Mariko. So good stuff there. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll eventually go over it. But I like how there's future plotting here. And again, that Claremont had a habit of doing that, building up other plot lines. And if you haven't watched on Amazon Prime, there's a documentary called Chris Claremont's X-Men. And it's him and Nasanti and Jim Shooter and Louise Simonson talking about the heyday of writing these books. And there's times Claremont would go to Louise and he'd be like, I don't have any ideas. And she'd say, well, Chris, what about this plot you made or this plot? And he'd go, oh, and he'd go to his typewriter and start writing out plot points. So that was kind of funny. He was a great writer, but kind of all over the place too, because he would write stuff and then kind of forget about it. And then Anne and Louise, or they called her Wheezy, would always bring him back to what he needed to focus on. So good stuff there. Now, Team America, they're down in Mexico. As I said, they got to get this crystal. They don't explain what the crystal is, but anytime I see AIM in a comic book, I always get excited. So it's an AIM research center. And this is how I remember AIM. That's one thing that really irked my gurk about Iron Man 3 is, yeah, they didn't do a good job of doing that. Anyway, something happens with Xavier. There's this telepathic entity that they don't explain who it is, and I'm not sure who it is, but something happens there. It builds a lot of suspense, which kind of makes the New Mutants trek out on their own because they can't reach Xavier. And when they go to free Danny, there's stakes, Reign's hurt. There's great moments with the Silver Samurai versus Cannonball and Sunspot and Danny. And what's really cool, let me see if I can find it. We'll jump past this action because I don't want to spoil the whole book. But Sunspot comes out of nowhere and whacks the Silver Samurai, who's supposed to be this big bad dude every time you see him in a comic. And he's like, what a blow. I felt it even through my armor. I cannot withstand another. So again, great artwork. I always love action lines like this, kind of the way they used to do it back in the day. Kind of has that manga feeling about it. Just great composition. The panels, as you can see, are not boring. They're not flat. You see a moment here where Shin is trying to use her powers to possess Lady Viper to get her to drop the gun, but you see that her will is strong and Shin's actually struggling to break it. So you think that with Xavier's finally able to reach his team. Speaking of which, before I go into this, when I was talking about the teamwork with Team America, you can start to see that they all start to work together. There's a camaraderie, and there's a really heartfelt moment. So please make sure to read the book. I don't want to spoil it. I just kind of wanted to hit some notes. Now, again, you think all's well that ends well because Xavier is able to reach his students because he says, I've been too long without them. But there's a cliffhanger. What's going on with the cliffhanger? Then I highly suggest, guys, that you read New Mutants, number 6. Now, I know this isn't like a key book, like, there's people that do only collect comics for the keys or the variants, which, if that's you, that's cool. But me, if I get a key, sweet, I'm excited. I get a different variant, sweet. But what I care about at the end of the day is a good story. That's why I like reading novels. That's why I like reading comic books, because comics, twofold, you get a good story, and hopefully at the same time you get some beautiful artwork. In this, you get both. But again, it's in Chris Claremont's hands. I know a lot of people say that he's overrated. He can get wordy. Yes, at times he can. But at least when he's wordy, and I've said this before, it means something. It's just not like talking about coffee or LOL so random or just pure exposition dump. There's heartfelt moments, and you can see how each team, both Team America and the New Mutants, care for one another. And you can see the struggle of the villain. So great storytelling, beautiful artwork. Highly, highly recommend you pick this up. Speaking of which, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Isaac for hooking me up with this book. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. And if you want your own copy, please first and foremost, support your local comic shop and see if they have a copy that they can get you. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.